Hey, welcome to X3, One Topic, Three Pundits. I'm your host, John C. Dvorak. I'm here with Joe Engo and Andrew Eisner. And we're going to discuss Apple's new products. So there's a bunch of new products coming out. They're slipstreaming them into the market in the next, I don't know, few months. And we've also found out that apparently there will be no 4G phone until next year, whenever. Andrew, you and Retrievo are following this closely.
The 4G phone, I think, is going to be a little disappointing to some of us. I was actually looking forward to a 4G iPhone. But we just did a survey at Retrievo and found that almost a third of current iPhone owners think they already have 4G.
That's a fun fact.
Yes, that's a fun fact. I mean, iPhone 4, hey, I've got 4G. It's called the iPhone 4, you know? So it looks like the 4G folks have a little...
So what difference does it make?
There's a little confusion.
They're happy already, happy as a clam.
Yeah. But meanwhile, back on the netbook, I like to call the Apple MacBook Air the Apple Netbook. I mean, because Steve Jobs famously said he'd never bring out a netbook. But what the heck is a 13-inch, lightweight?
Right.
So, but the rumor is that Best Buy, or people say Best Buy is not stocking them, and they're waiting for a refresh, and it's going to have Thunderbolt, and which is I don't know.
Thunderbolt is that high speed. A USB 3 thing.
Right. That doesn't look like too many people are going to. It's going to take a little while before
USB 3.
support. And by the way, I just read that the Thunderbolt cable on Apple is $49. Just the cable is $49.
Well, as soon as Monoprice or one of those companies, they're going to start producing cheap
Which
ones,
is one of the reasons
HDMI
why I
cables.
use a PC, because I can go down to Fry's and get the same cable for like $4.99.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing as going to Best Buy and their HDMI cables are $200. You can get them from Monoprice for $5.
But anyway, so the new MacBook Air is going to have Sandy Bridge, Thunderbolt, and probably wait for Lion OS. And meanwhile...
Oh, they're definitely waiting for Lion.
Yeah, which is August. So meanwhile, Sony then has just announced in Europe a new Vaio Z, which is lighter, thinner, made of carbon fiber, and very cool.
Okay, so that reminds me of my Sony story, which will be an upcoming column. And I have to call it Sony. This is one where
this is a column preview.
This is one of these columns where I have to actually call a bunch of people and wait. This could take months.
Work.
So here's work.
Yeah.
So I dug up. I found my old DAT recorder from Sony from the late '80s or whenever it was, and it was all gooey. And I said, what did somebody spill orange juice on this thing or something? Meanwhile, my wife is cleaning up the attic, and she finds one of my old, I used to have a couple of these Sony TV players. They were, you put a cassette in them, and they were portable, handheld, and you could watch movies on airplanes. They were actually quite cool in their day. This is before we had a lot of other things that came out. And it was all gooey. And it turns out to be the coating, some sort of paint they used during some era of production.
Oh, no.
Has dissolved just from ozone in the atmosphere or whatever, and it wasn't...
Probably heat as well.
These things were not kept in the hot room, that's for sure, but whatever the case was, the coating has deteriorated and made the product unusable because it's like a gooey... Now, I've taken MEK, which is a fine solvent. It's also good for lighting barbecues, but I don't recommend it. It's against the law, actually. And boy, it does the job. Anyway... And I've tried to get this stuff off. You can't do it, and it's just sticky, and it's a gooey mess.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of Sony products out there. If anybody out there has a Sony product this has happened to, I want an email, john@dvorak.org, because I know what Sony's going to say. I don't know. I never heard of such a thing. So I need to document that I'm not the only guy that maybe some alien came in and X-rayed these things and they've turned them into goo. Very, very problematic for me, because now I have to get a DAT recorder to get I can't play my old DAT tapes and move them over to DVD.
That is
fascinating.
I don't know what to say.
All right,
but anyway,
where were we?
We were talking about the new MacBook Air, is the iPhone 5, supposedly the 4S coming in when?
I've been hearing rumors about September,
which is they're saying it's got a bigger display, a new case, a new package, and it'll have the A5, the dual-core processor, and I don't know. So new iPhone in August, September, another new one, possibly they're talking about a different one. They're getting conflicting
What about
rumors.
the iPad? Is that in the
I guess that iPad 3 will be out.
I haven't heard many
with
rumors
a
about it.
Retina
There was
display.
actually a recent build of iOS 5 that displayed that had different sizes for the display for the next iPad.
So there may be a bigger or
So
smaller
there has been, so they're definitely doing some internal testing at Apple. So it's definitely on the way. Whether they've started manufacturing it yet, who knows? But I mean, my guess is that they would definitely want to try to, meet the Christmas season.
Yeah,
with
well,
iPad 3.
maybe. But they're selling these things like hotcakes. Why don't they just milk the cash cow and wait?
Yeah.
I mean, these things are still, they're having sales of not.
I mean, there was a lot of rumors a few months ago that, the iPad 3 was going to come out very shortly after iPad 2. So it wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
Yeah.
They have to make up for all that revenue that they're going to lose from Final Cut Pro.
Yes, and if anyone's listened to our show enough, you'll know what we're talking about. Otherwise, you got to go back and listen to all these X3 shows.
Yeah.
They're just, I think you put them all together, only 20 minutes max total. I'm not sure. Anyway, you've been listening to X3.